What is up, down, and sideways, you absolutely gorgeous individuals? Welcome. It's another epi of League Unlock. My name is Eric, diving deeper and deeper and deeper into that Worlds 2024 preview action, and we're continuing the theme of friendly fire or friendly flame, if you will, post-Worlds top 20 players. We're now looking at the big four major regions, the rivalries that are synonymous with these international competitions. And of course, I'm talking NA versus EU and China versus Korea, LCK versus LPL. We're going, which region are you more scared of heading into this event, and which will do better? Which is stronger overall? That's including all 3 or 4 teams heading to this event. We're going to compare and say, who's better? Who's going to do better on paper? Who's looked better heading into this event? And of course, there will be some varying opinions. But honestly, I think it's pretty obvious which 2 regions of these head-to-head are looking better heading into Worlds. We start with the battle for bronze between the LCS and the LEC. And again, if we go top seed down to that 3rd seed, we're comparing FlyQuest to G2. And obviously, if you looked at all the global power rankings we've done, you kind of had FlyQuest and Team Liquid because they're such a close level. We all know how the crazy LCS finals ended up playing out. They were very evenly matched and kind of had both of them ahead of G2. The talk all summer split and really all year long has been the overall power level of the LEC has dipped a little bit. All of a sudden, people are having a bit of hopium towards North America at Worlds, which we know is a dangerous recipe, usually for disaster. But at least the top 2 seeds, that's, again, FlyQuest and Team Liquid, you feel better about them than even G2 coming in as that top seed. Now, G2 has just won 4 titles with their wonky format in the LEC, but the fashion that they won both the summer and the season finals were not at the highest. Obviously, the 3-0 they got against Fnatic was a disaster class performance out of Fnatic, and there was some head-scratching, boneheaded-looking plays in the season finals as well. So even though G2 had that clean sweep, the power level, you feel like, isn't as high as it was in 2023. But these guys, it's the same 5 from last year. They have tons of international experience, and if there's any Western team that you believe can level up on that international stage, 100%, it is G2 eSports. But when you look at the body of work for both FlyQuest and Team Liquid as a whole, you're feeling better about them, combined with now the double international experience that both of them have gotten. And I know FlyQuest bowed out at that playing stage at MSI, blah, 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 memes. But even Whippo and other people have talked about it. Now this perhaps is a little bit of copium afterwards, but PSG are really good. PSG are bordering on major region status. We saw that at MSI, and as you've heard a lot of the casters from the PCS saying they look even more terrifying in the summer split than they did in spring when they were knocking out FlyQuest. But Team Liquid has competed against T1 in competitive series internationally. They've obviously 2-0'd Fnatic, which is why both 1st and 2nd seeds, you're in the same conversation with G2. I think the 3 of them are all kind of similar power levels, but Fnatic is far behind them, honestly. They're kind of in a tier of their own when you talk about the 6 teams that are representing the Western regions, but the top 2 for the LCS comparable to G2, Fnatic below them by a significant margin because of how some of these playoff series have gone for them and not looking like they're on the same page. You've talked about, or I think it was Whippo talking about how they play around Humanoid, or maybe it was Inspired, how they need to feed him a lot of resources. Humanoid didn't have a great playoff run, so Fnatic, if you had to do a ranking, as we've done in the rankings, it would be FlyQuest TL, G2, Fnatic's way down there, but still down there. And then you get to the 3rd seeds for the West, which are probably comparable and actually have a lot of similarities. And that's Both teams have 4 guys making their World Championship debut. Obviously, MDK is full of rookies. And then the 2 junglers, River and Elyoya, are the veterans who have been on the international stage before, the only guys on that roster. And obviously, MDK, again, the similarities, they both have huge upsets. MDK beat G2 initially, obviously lost again in that losers bracket to them. 100 Thieves taking down Cloud9 and bowing out in maybe feeble fashion in the 3-0 shellacking that they got the hands of FlyQuest. I feel better about 100 Thieves getting out of the play-in stage than MDK. A lot of that is actually because they're on the easier side of the bracket that does not have PSG. I still think if MDK doesn't get us as the 2 seed from play-ins, that would be absolutely ludicrous. And I know people are memeing on them internationally. I still think both of them will be getting out, but comparable power levels, comparable stories. It's really just a question of how do these rookies perform in their international debuts for both of these squads. But again, you look at all 3 teams from each region consecutively, and the power level for the LCS is definitely higher on paper. Looking at the full body of work, we're very accustomed to them disappointing on that international stage, but I think it's obvious the LCS, at least, again, that upper half that's heading to Worlds, higher level than LEC right now. LCK and LPL side of things obviously gets a little bit trickier. You're adding an extra team, so we're up to 8 total. The expectations are much higher, and the level of play is a whole lot higher. So let's start top seeds and go down. That's BLG versus Hanwha, and this is a tricky one because Gen G as that 2nd seed, to me, still feels like they should be the tournament favorites, which speaks to the unbelievably ludicrous power levels of the LCK. BLG, I think, is immediately in that triumvirate of overall contenders for this event that does consist of Hanwha, Gen G, and BLG. But Hanwha, an absolute glow-up in these playoffs, going back to their series against T1, where Zeke was playing out of his mind. He continued to play out of his mind against Gen G in those finals. And listen, that was a competitive 4-game set that Hanwha Life had. Gen G, I think, were a little bit shocked at the level that Hanwha was at, but it was by no means a choke job, and I'm by no means worried about Gen G heading towards this World Championship. As I just said, absolutely terrifying and should be overall favorites. But BLG, it's tricky to fully gauge because they were so far ahead of the rest of the LPL basically for the entirety of that spring and summer split. The whole calendar year, they have just dominated the LPL from start to finish. So yes, they're incredible. Titans on the Rift and will be a terrifying prospect for any team to match up against. But how good is the rest of the LPL really? Because when you go away from BLG, and even if, as soon as you compare TES to Gen G, this is where things start getting incredibly skewed. And I know TES, they played BLG the most competitive of any of the LPL teams. They were the only team to actually take a game off of them in the playoffs and had more competitive games in that 4-game set that they had against them than when Weibo was back-to-back getting 0-3'd by them. But then Weibo beat TES, so the 2, 3, 4 seeds in the LPL become a little bit of a mess. But Top Esports, I think because we saw so few games out of them in those playoffs compared to the other squads, because they didn't have to play in the gauntlet at all. They didn't really get a shot at redemption after losing to Weibo. But comparing to Gen G as a 2 seed, it's incredibly one-sided. Even if you dip down to that 3rd seed, okay, you're giving Top Esports a higher power level than D+ probably heading into this event, but you're comparing a 2 seed versus a 3 seed, which is where things start getting really skewed, especially when you then jump down to LNG, who, if Scout was coming to this event, you might say, I feel better about LNG than D+ probably in terms of what they're able to put out. But if it's Yagao coming in as rumored, I know they're still trying to fit it and deal with all these legal issues so that Scout is able to start for them. If Yagao's coming in, that's a slumping Yagao that did not look good in playoffs. He wasn't comfortable on these AD carries mid. Shifting back to mages would obviously be a boon for him. But hoping and banking that Scout is able to play, because Yagao starting for them, I'm feeling better about D+. Even though, fun fact about him, I feel like Lucid is the only rookie in the entire 8 teams that are coming into the World Championship from the LPL and the LCK. So that is obviously the main question mark. I'll include King in what power levels he's looking at, but he gets the Worlds buff. So it's really just how good is Lucid going to be for this D+ squad, because the third seeds are comparable. Where this starts to get even more one-sided is when you look at the fourth seeds. I know, Weibo. How about, by the way, 2023 finals rematch are the 4 seeds in Weibo and T1 coming into this event. And Weibo obviously has been very up and down, getting smashed by BLG, then being not just competitive, upsetting top eSports. So there's absolutely been a level up. Unfortunately, they're very much do or die. Whatever level Tarzan is at, he's been pretty damn good the last few series. But T1 is the most terrifying 4th seed because you know that they can level up to a World Championship level form, especially now that the Ziggs meta is hopefully leaving behind us. And most importantly, case in point, last Worlds, when T1 has time to study, brainstorm, tinker with a meta. We're talking about multiple weeks that they're going to be on the same patch, not have to adapt beyond that, but figure out what is the optimal way, what are the optimal champions to play in this new meta. That is when they are the absolute terrifying war machine. So I'd be shocked if T1 wasn't at a much better level than scraping by KT in a 5th and decisive game to even qualify for Worlds. So when you look top to bottom, the LCK, I feel like it's getting 3 out of 4 check marks when you match up the first seeds versus, every seed, LPL versus LCK. It seems obvious to me that the LCS is at a higher level than the LEC coming into this event, and the LCK is at a higher level than the LPL when you're looking at the full seeds heading to this World Championship. Obviously, we've thought things like this before and have been completely proven wrong when the tournament actually starts. But, I mean, last year I feel like we felt similar about the LCK. And then if T1 doesn't go on the LPL gauntlet eliminating people, you were pretty close to an all LPL finals. So, does feel like the LCK is at an even better level than then, because T1 is kind of the one you're waiting to level up. Hanwha Life and Gen G are already there. You could have 3 of the 4 LCK seats that are legit contenders at this event, as opposed to really just the one on the LPL when you're talking about Billy Gaming. But Bin, Knight, Elk, and the boys might be more than enough to be the ones hoisting that Summoners Cup this year at the World Championship. Either way, these are the 2 best rivalries, of course, the most matched on the Rift, and can't wait for all the upsets across the board, because you know it's inevitable that a Western team, well, it's not inevitable that a Western team steals a game off an Eastern team, but there's going to be upsets. There is every single year. That's why pick'ems are impossible. Can't wait for things to get started, but that is it today for League Unlocked. My name is Eric, and you people stay absolutely beautiful as always, and you know we will catch you on that flippity flip.